My friends, life is not a random accident. You are not here by mistake. You were placed on this earth with a divine purpose, designed by the hand of God Himself. The breath that fills your lungs at this very moment, it's not just air, it's grace. Every heartbeat, every sunrise, every tear that falls from your eyes carries meaning. And yet so many of us walk through this world feeling lost, empty, uncertain of who we are and why we're here. But I want to tell you something tonight. Something that could change your life if you'll let it sink deep into your heart. You are more than your failures. You are more than your past. You are more than your pain. You see, the world has a way of convincing us that our worth is measured by our success, our possessions, or the applause of others. But none of those things can fill the emptiness inside. Because deep within the human heart, there's a longing that nothing on this earth can satisfy. It's the longing for connection, not with fame, not with fortune, but with the God who made you. You were created for relationship, for meaning, for truth. And yet, as we walk through the noise and confusion of life, we try to fill that void with temporary things and career, money, pleasure, entertainment. But no matter how much we achieve, something inside us keeps whispering, there must be more than this. That whisper, my friend, is the voice of God calling your name. It's the voice that speaks in the quiet moments, when the world goes silent and your soul begins to ask the real questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my life really about? You see, God never intended for you to live in confusion. He made you to live with purpose. He made you to love, to serve, to bring light into a world that's drowning in darkness. But something happened. Something broke. Sin entered the world, and with it came pain, fear, and separation. And ever since, humanity has been trying to find its way back home. Maybe tonight you feel like you've lost your way. Maybe you've been through a season of pain so deep that you've started to wonder if God even sees you anymore. Maybe you've been betrayed, abandoned, or disappointed by life itself. You've tried to stand tall, but inside you're exhausted. I want you to hear me now. God has not forgotten you. He has never stopped loving you. Even in your darkest moments, His hand has been reaching toward you. You may have turned your back on Him, but He has never turned His back on you. There's a story, one Jesus told about a lost sheep. Out of 100, one wandered away, but the shepherd didn't stay with the 99. No, He went searching for the one that was lost. That's the heart of God, to search, to find, to rescue. You might feel like that lost sheep tonight wandering through the shadows, but I tell you this, the shepherd is coming for you, and when He finds you, He doesn't scold you. He doesn't condemn you. He lifts you up, places you on His shoulders, and carries you home. Because you are precious to Him, more valuable than gold, more loved than you could ever imagine. There is a moment in every person's life when they must decide, will I keep running, or will I come home? Will I keep chasing what fades, or will I reach for what is eternal? The world will tell you that happiness can be bought, that peace can be earned, that love can be found in temporary places. But true peace, true love, true joy, they come only from God. And I can tell you this, the greatest tragedy in life is not death. It's living your whole life and never discovering why you were born. Maybe you've been asking, why would God love someone like me? After everything I've done, after every wrong choice, every mistake, why would He still care? My friend, the answer is simple. Because His love is not based on your performance. It's based on His nature. And His nature is love. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, His arms are still open. You don't have to be perfect to come to Him, you just have to be willing. You might be sitting there listening, thinking that it's too late for you, that you've missed your chance. But as long as there is breath in your body, there is hope in your story. God specializes in new beginnings. He takes broken pieces and turns them into something beautiful. He turns pain into power, failure into faith, and ashes into beauty. He can take what the world calls worthless and make it shine with eternal value. So tonight, wherever you are, no matter how far you've drifted, you can begin again. You can start right now. Because there is a voice calling out your name, not to condemn you, but to bring you home. The same voice that spoke the stars into being is calling your heart right now. And when you answer, when you finally say, yes, Lord, I'm ready, something miraculous happens. The weight begins to lift, the guilt begins to fade. And for the first time you feel what real freedom is, not the kind the world offers, but the kind only God can give. This is not about religion. This is about relationship, about coming back to the one who made you. Because no matter how dark your past, the light of God's love is brighter still. My friends, one of the greatest battles you will ever fight is not the one outside of you. It's the one within. The fight between fear and faith, between doubt and belief, between who you used to be and who God is calling you to become. Every single one of us wakes up each morning to a war that no one else can see. You may not carry a weapon in your hand, but you carry one in your heart. The enemy doesn't come at you with swords or guns. He comes with lies. Lies about your worth, your identity, your future. He whispers, "You're not good enough. You'll never change. You're too broken, too far gone." And if you listen long enough, you begin to believe it. That's how the battle begins. Not on the outside, but in the mind and in the heart. But hear me. God did not create you to live defeated. He created you to live victorious. The moment you realize that the greatest enemy you face is not around you but inside you, that's the moment the tide begins to turn. Because the real victory begins when you allow God to renew your mind. You see, the human heart was never meant to carry the weight of fear, guilt, or shame. But when we try to fight life's battles in our own strength, that's exactly what happens. We collapse under the pressure. We get angry, bitter, hopeless. But the truth is, you were never meant to fight alone. The Bible says, "Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might." Notice it doesn't say your might, it says his. Because your strength will run out, but his strength never will. Maybe you've been fighting a silent battle. Maybe it's anxiety that keeps you up at night, or the memory of something you can't undo. Maybe you've been fighting an addiction, or the pain of losing someone you loved. Whatever your battle is, I want you to know something. God is not intimidated by your struggle. He knows your fears, your doubts, your questions, and he still loves you. In fact, he's been walking with you through every storm you faced, even when you didn't realize it. Sometimes his silence is not absence, it's preparation. Sometimes he allows the storm not to destroy you, but to develop you. You see, every storm carries a lesson, and every wound can become a witness. When you look back one day, you'll realize that what was meant to break you actually built you. There's a verse that says, "When I am weak, then I am strong." It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? But it's not. Because when you come to the end of yourself, that's where God begins. When your strength fails, his grace takes over. We spend so much of our lives trying to hide our weaknesses, pretending to be fine while our hearts are breaking. But what if I told you that your weakness is not your enemy? It's your doorway to God's power. Because grace only flows into empty hands. So stop pretending, stop running. Be honest with him. Tell him about your fears, your doubts, your failures. He already knows. And he's not shocked by any of it. He's waiting. Not for your perfection, but for your surrender. You see, the battle within isn't won by fighting harder. It's won by kneeling lower. The greatest victories in life are not achieved by strength but by surrender. There's a story about a man who wrestled with God all night long. He wanted a blessing, he wanted a change. And when the sun rose, God touched him, and he walked differently for the rest of his life. That's what happens when you meet God in your struggle. You don't walk the same way again. Maybe right now you're in your own midnight wrestling match. You're tired, you're frustrated, you're confused. But if you'll hold on, if you'll refuse to let go, morning will come. And when it does, you'll rise with a new strength, a new peace, a new identity. Because the God who called you has not forgotten you. He's shaping you in the fire, molding you in the storm, preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Sometimes we say, "God, remove the pain," but God says, "I'll give you power to endure it." We say, "Lord, stop the storm," but he says, "I'll teach you to walk on water." You see, faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. Courage isn't never falling. It's getting back up every single time you do. You might feel weak today, but remember, weakness is the canvas on which God paints his glory. You might feel broken, but brokenness is where light enters. You might feel lost, but grace has a way of finding people right where they are. Don't believe the lie that you're too far gone. There is no pit so deep that God's love isn't deeper still. And when you begin to see yourself not as the world defines you, but as God sees you, redeemed, chosen, loved, the battle begins to shift. You start walking in confidence not in your ability but in his promise. You begin to realize that you don't need the approval of men when you already have the acceptance of God. So stand firm. Lift your head. You may be in a battle right now, but you're not fighting for victory. You're fighting from victory, because the cross has already declared it. You are free. You are loved. You are His. And that, my friends, is the truth that will carry you through every storm, every valley, every battle within. My friends, every human heart beats with a question. Why am I here? It's a question that echoes through the ages, from the richest palaces to the poorest homes. We may have technology, knowledge, and comfort, but still our souls cry out for meaning. Because deep down we all know this truth. Life without purpose is like a ship without a compass. You may move, but you'll never truly arrive. And yet purpose is not something we invent. It's something we discover. God didn't create you by accident. He created you with intention. Before you ever took your first breath, He already knew your name, your gifts, your struggles, and your story. There's a verse that says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." Imagine that before you ever existed, you were already known. You were already loved. That means your purpose isn't found in what you do. It's found in who you belong to. The tragedy of our modern world is that so many are chasing success but missing significance. We've built higher buildings but lower morals. We've gained information but lost wisdom. We've learned how to make a living but forgotten how to make a life. But purpose, real purpose, is not about fame or fortune. It's about serving something greater than yourself. It's about realizing that your life is part of a story far bigger than your own. When you begin to understand that, everything changes. You stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" You stop living for applause and start living for impact. Maybe you've been wandering, unsure of where to go next. Maybe you've tried one thing after another, hoping something would finally fill the emptiness inside. But let me tell you something. You will never find peace until you walk in the purpose God designed for you. Your purpose is not hidden from you. It's hidden within you. It's not waiting somewhere out in the world. It's waiting inside your heart. And when you start listening to that still, small voice, the voice of God guiding your steps, you'll begin to see that every pain, every detour, every delay had meaning. Sometimes, God doesn't show us the full map because He wants us to trust Him with the next step. You might not understand where you're going, but faith means walking even when you can't see the road ahead. There's a reason you've survived what others didn't. There's a reason you still have breath in your lungs. You're still here because God's not finished with you yet. You may feel like your life is too ordinary to matter, but God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Moses was a shepherd. David was a teenager. Mary was a simple girl from a small town. Yet when they surrendered their plans to God, He used them to change the world. Purpose is never about the size of your platform. It's about the size of your obedience. Maybe you're a teacher, a builder, a mother, a student, or a soldier. It doesn't matter what title you wear. What matters is the heart behind what you do. Because when you live with purpose, even the smallest act can become holy. Holding a door open for someone, listening to a friend in pain, giving without expecting. These are not small things in the eyes of God. They're eternal seeds, planted in hearts that will one day bear fruit. And that's the beauty of purpose. It turns the ordinary moments of life into divine opportunities. But purpose will also test you. Because once you start walking in it, life won't always be easy. There will be obstacles, critics, and moments of doubt. But purpose gives you the strength to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. The enemy will try to distract you, to make you compare your journey to someone else's. But your path is your own. God doesn't need another version of someone else. He needs the one and only you. You might say, "But I've made too many mistakes. I've wasted too much time." No, my friend, nothing is wasted when it's placed in the hands of God. Every broken piece, every wrong turn can become part of His plan. Sometimes, the very thing that once brought you pain becomes the platform God uses to bring healing to others. Because He doesn't just deliver you, He transforms you so you can deliver others. Purpose has a way of redeeming pain. It takes what was meant for evil and turns it into something good. So ask yourself, not what do I want from life, but what does life want from me? Better yet, ask, what does God want through me? Because when you live with divine purpose, you stop measuring your days by what you earn and start measuring them by what you give. You start seeing people differently. You start loving deeper, forgiving quicker, believing bigger. You stop chasing happiness and start creating it for others. And in doing so, you discover something powerful. The purpose you've been searching for was never about you at all. It was about the lives you were meant to touch, the love you were meant to share, and the light you were meant to shine. So tonight, wherever you are, whatever stage of life you're in, remember this. You are here for a reason. You're not a mistake, you're a miracle. You're not forgotten, you're chosen. You're not just existing, you're called. And when you finally step into that calling, when you let go of fear and let faith lead you, the world around you begins to change because the light inside you begins to shine. That's the power of purpose. It's not just living, it's living for something eternal. My friends, there are seasons in life when the sun stops shining. When the laughter fades, the road grows dark, and the soul begins to ache in places words can't reach. Those are the moments we call the valley of pain. Every person walks through it sooner or later. No one is exempt. You may not talk about it, you may hide it behind a smile. But deep inside you carry wounds that no one sees. A broken relationship, a dream that died, a prayer that seemed unanswered, a loss that left you hollow. And when you're in that valley, you begin to wonder, where is God now? Has he forgotten me? Has he turned his face away? I've been there too. We all have. But here's what I've learned through every shadow, through every tear. God does some of his best work in the dark. It's in the valley, where faith stops being an idea and becomes a reality. It's in the valley where we learn that peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of God. You see, the mountain is where we celebrate, but the valley is where we grow. The mountaintop gives us vision, but the valley gives us roots. And sometimes, God allows the valley not to punish us, but to prepare us. Maybe you're walking through your own valley right now. Maybe the doctor's report broke your heart. Maybe your home feels empty, or your dreams have crumbled to dust. Maybe you've prayed for years and nothing seems to change. I want you to know you're not alone in that valley. God is not just the God of the mountain, he's the God of the valley too. When the world walks away, he stays. When your strength fails, his grace begins. When everything around you feels uncertain, his presence remains constant. There's a verse that says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Notice those words. I walk through. You're not meant to stay there. The valley is not your destination. It's just part of your journey. You may feel stuck, but God is still moving. You may not see the way out, but he's already leading you through. The same God who walked with Daniel in the lion's den. The same God who stood with Shadrach in the fire. The same God who raised Jesus from the tomb. That same God is walking beside you in your valley. When you're surrounded by darkness, remember this: shadows can't exist without light. So if you see a shadow, it means the light is still shining somewhere nearby. Sometimes we cry, "God, take me out of this pain." But often, he whispers back, "I will walk with you through it." Because there are lessons in the valley that you can't learn anywhere else. There's a depth of faith that can only be discovered when everything else is stripped away. Pain, when surrendered to God, becomes the birthplace of power. I've seen people who've walked through unthinkable tragedy, who've lost everything, and yet they shine with a peace that defies explanation. Do you know why? Because they met God in the fire and they came out refined like gold. You might say, "But my heart is shattered. I don't have any strength left." My friend, that's exactly where grace begins. When your strength ends, his begins. When your voice trembles, his whispers carry you. When your hope fades, his promises hold you. Never forget, the same Jesus who calmed the storm also cried in the garden. The same Savior who healed the sick also hung on the cross. Pain does not mean absence of God. Sometimes it is the very proof of his nearness. Maybe your valley has lasted longer than you expected. You've tried to smile through it, to be strong, to keep going, but inside you're weary. Let me tell you, God is not asking you to be strong. He's asking you to be still, because it's in stillness that we hear his voice. It's in surrender that we find his strength. The valley of pain can feel endless, but it has an expiration date. Morning always follows the night. Tears may last for a moment, but joy comes in the morning. Don't give up before the dawn breaks. You don't know how close you are to your breakthrough. Sometimes the enemy fights hardest right before the miracle comes. I know what it feels like to question, to cry out, to say, "God, where are you?" But looking back, I realize he was there all along. He was there in the silence, in the waiting, in the heartbreak. He was carrying me when I couldn't walk on my own. Maybe tonight that's what he's doing for you. Maybe you don't feel him, but he's closer than your next breath. Maybe you don't see the plan, but he's already working it out. You might not understand why things happened the way they did, but one day you will. One day, when you look back from the other side of the valley, you'll see that every tear had a purpose. Every delay had a reason. Every heartbreak was shaping you into who you were meant to be. Because God never wastes pain. He turns wounds into wisdom, sorrow into strength, and trials into testimonies. So don't let your valley define you. Let it refine you. Don't let the darkness convince you it's over. Because the light of heaven is still burning bright. Hold on. Keep walking. Keep believing. Because one day you'll stand on the mountaintop again and you'll look back and say, it was hard, but it was worth it. I didn't understand then, but now I see he was with me all the way. And that, my friends, is the miracle of the valley, my friends. One of the hardest words for the human heart to accept is change. We talk about wanting a better life, a new beginning, a second chance. But when the moment comes to take that step, fear whispers in our ear, what if you fail? What if nothing really changes? And yet without change there is no growth. Without growth there is no life. You can't become who you were created to be while clinging to who you used to be. Change is not comfortable. It stretches you, challenges you, and often takes you through unfamiliar territory. But here's the truth. God never calls you to comfort. He calls you to courage. The Bible is filled with stories of people who found their destiny on the other side of change. Abraham had to leave his homeland. Moses had to face Pharaoh. Peter had to step out of the boat. Every great move of God began when someone decided that staying the same was no longer an option. Maybe that's where you are today, standing at the crossroads of what was and what could be. You feel the stirring in your spirit, that small voice saying, it's time. But fear has its grip on you. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of stepping into the unknown. But listen, fear is a liar. It promises safety but delivers regret. It convinces you that standing still is easier, but deep down you know, staying where you are is far more dangerous than walking into the unknown with God. You cannot move forward while looking backward. You can't step into tomorrow while holding on to yesterday. Some of you have been holding on to things that are weighing you down. Old habits, toxic relationships, unforgiveness, shame. You keep carrying them because you've convinced yourself that's just who you are. But my friend, that's not who you are, and that's who you were. God didn't create you to live chained to your past. He created you to walk in freedom. You may have fallen, but you don't have to stay down. The mark of faith isn't perfection, it's persistence. It's getting up one more time than you fall. There's a verse that says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation begins in the mind. It begins when you decide that the pain of staying the same is greater than the fear of change. Sometimes God allows discomfort in your life because he's trying to push you into your destiny. What feels like rejection may actually be redirection. What feels like loss may actually be liberation. You see, change is not punishment, it's preparation. I remember once hearing someone say, God loves you just the way you are, but he loves you too much to leave you that way. And that's true. He meets us in our mess, but he never leaves us there. He begins to reshape us, rebuild us, renew us. And that process can be painful. Because before God changes your circumstances, he often changes your heart. He'll strip away pride, expose old wounds, and bring hidden things to the surface. Not to shame you, but to heal you. Because what stays hidden can't be healed. Maybe you're afraid to let go of what's familiar. Maybe your comfort zone has become your cage. But the truth is, God can't bless the person you're pretending to be. He can only bless the person you truly are. So be honest with him. Tell him your fears, your struggles, your doubts. He's not angry, he's waiting. And when you finally surrender, when you say, Lord, I'm ready to change, something powerful begins to happen. The chains that held you start to break. The weight that crushed you starts to lift. And a new light begins to rise within you. Because real change isn't about trying harder. It's about trusting deeper. It's about letting God do in you what you could never do for yourself. Some of you are standing on the edge of a breakthrough, but you're afraid to take that first step. You're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect sign. But the truth is, faith never comes with full clarity. It comes with trust. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he didn't have a guarantee. All he had was a word, come. And when he obeyed, the impossible became possible. That's what faith does. It doesn't remove fear. It moves forward in spite of it. You might not have it all figured out. You might not feel ready. But if God has placed something in your heart, a dream, a calling, a vision, don't let fear keep you stuck in yesterday. Because change begins with one small act of obedience. One prayer, one decision, one step, and that one step can change everything. Maybe your change is letting go of anger. Maybe it's forgiving someone who hurt you. Maybe it's finally believing that you're worthy of love. Whatever it is, know this, you don't walk that path alone. The God who calls you to change will walk with you every step of the way. And when you look back, you'll see that every tear, every trial, every test was preparing you for this moment. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing faith in the presence of fear. So tonight, if you're standing on the edge of change, take that step. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait until you feel ready. Take that step in faith. Because when you do, you'll find that God has already gone ahead of you. He's prepared the path, opened the doors, and made a way where there was none. You'll discover that the change you feared most was the very thing that set you free. And when that happens, you'll be able to stand tall, look back and say, it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. The pain became purpose. The fear became faith. The change became the beginning of my new life. That's the courage to change. The courage that transforms not just your circumstances, but your soul. My friends, if there is one thing the human soul cannot live without, it is hope. Hope is the light that shines when everything else goes dark. It's the whisper that says, hold on, this isn't the end. We live in a world where hope is often in short supply. We see wars, division, hatred, and pain. We see families torn apart, hearts broken, dreams crushed. And sometimes, if we're honest, it's easy to wonder if hope still exists at all. But I want to tell you tonight, hope is still alive. Because hope is not an emotion. It's a person. And his name is Jesus. The hope that I speak of is not fragile or fleeting. It's not the kind of hope that depends on circumstances or on things going your way. True hope, real hope, is born in the darkness when you have nothing left but faith. You see, anyone can believe when the sun is shining. But faith that lasts is the faith that holds on through the storm. Maybe you're walking through one of those storms right now. Maybe life has hit you hard. You've lost your job, your health, your home, your peace. Maybe you're surrounded by people, yet you feel completely alone. I want to tell you something that could change everything. Your situation may look hopeless, but you are not hopeless. Because as long as there is breath in your lungs, there is still a plan in motion. God has a way of bringing beauty out of ashes, order out of chaos, life out of what seems dead. When everything falls apart, he's already at work putting it back together. Not the way it was, but better than before. Sometimes, the reason he allows you to reach rock bottom is because that's where you finally find the rock that doesn't move. Hope doesn't mean the absence of pain, and it means that pain will not have the final word. There's a verse that says, weeping may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Notice it doesn't say might come, it says it will. Morning always follows night. That's a promise you can hold on to when the world feels heavy. Maybe your night has lasted too long. Maybe you're tired of waiting. Maybe you've been praying for years and nothing seems to change. But what if I told you, hope is working behind the scenes even when you can't see it? The seed that's buried in the soil looks dead, but under the surface life is growing. And in due season it will break through the ground. That's what hope does. It keeps believing when there's no reason left to believe. It keeps walking when every step feels impossible. It keeps trusting that the same God who began your story will bring it to completion. Hope says, I may not see the way, but I know the one who makes the way. Hope says, this valley will not be my home, it's just part of my journey. Hope says, even if I lose everything else, I will not lose my faith. You see, the light of hope doesn't come from the world around you. It comes from the Spirit within you. It's not dependent on circumstances. It's anchored in eternity. When Jesus walked out of the tomb, he didn't just conquer death, he gave the world a living hope. A hope that cannot die. And that's the hope I want you to hold on to tonight. Because no matter how dark your night, the light of heaven is stronger still. I've seen people standing beside graves, tears streaming down their faces, and yet there's peace in their eyes. I've seen men and women lose everything, and yet they still lift their hands and say, God, I trust you. That's hope. That's power. That's faith. The enemy will do everything he can to steal your hope, because he knows if he can destroy your hope, he can destroy your heart. But when you guard your hope, you guard your future. Never let the world take that light from you. Feed it with prayer. Protect it with truth. Surround it with people who remind you of who you are and whose you are. Maybe you felt forgotten. Maybe you think God has turned his face away. But I want you to know, and even when you can't trace his hand, you can still trust his heart. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't abandoned you. He's still working in the silence. When Joseph was in prison, it looked hopeless, but God was preparing him for the palace. When Daniel was in the lion's den, it looked hopeless, but God was preparing to show his glory. When Jesus was on the cross, it looked hopeless, but 3 days later the stone rolled away. Every story that seemed to end in defeat became a story of victory. And yours can too, so don't let go of hope. Even if it's small, even if it's fragile, even if it's just a flicker. Hold on, because sometimes a single spark is enough to light up the whole night. And when you do, you'll discover something beautiful. That hope not only changes your circumstances, it changes you. It gives you strength to endure, peace to rest, and faith to rise again. You might be standing in the middle of the storm, but the storm is not the end of your story. One day you'll look back on this season and say, I thought I was breaking but I was actually being rebuilt. I thought I was losing everything, but God was teaching me that he was enough. That's the power of hope. It turns graves into gardens, sorrow into songs, endings into new beginnings. So wherever you are tonight, lift your eyes. The light is still shining. The dawn is still coming. And the same God who carried you through yesterday will carry you into tomorrow. That, my friends, is the unbreakable light of hope. My friends, if you've been listening closely to these words, then you know something vital. Every ending is the seed of a new beginning. Life is full of seasons. Seasons of joy, seasons of sorrow, seasons of waiting, and seasons of breakthrough. And no matter how dark the night, the dawn always comes. A new beginning is not just a fresh start. It is a divine appointment. It is God saying, I am not finished with you yet. Maybe you've walked through valleys of pain. Maybe you've faced storms that seemed unending. Maybe fear has held you back and hope has seemed distant. But tonight I want to tell you, your new beginning is already on the way. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know the steps. You don't even have to feel ready, because when God starts something, He finishes it. Think about the dawn. It doesn't ask the sun for permission to rise. It doesn't wait for the clouds to disappear. It simply comes. And when it comes, it brings light that touches everything. That's what God wants to do in your life. Bring light into every corner, warmth into every wound, hope into every heartache. You may have made mistakes. You may have stumbled, fallen, or doubted yourself, but God's grace is greater than your past. His mercy is deeper than your failures, and His love is stronger than anything you've ever faced. There's a verse that says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. That's the promise for you today. God is doing a new thing. He is rewriting your story. He is breathing life into what seemed dead. He is making beauty out of brokenness. Sometimes a new beginning requires a bold step of faith. Sometimes it requires leaving behind what is comfortable but no longer serves you. Sometimes it requires courage, perseverance, and trust in God's timing. But my friends, no step taken with God is wasted. No sacrifice made in obedience is lost. No moment of faith is forgotten. I know what it feels like to wait for something new. I know the longing, the impatience, the frustration. But let me tell you, the waiting is never wasted. The refining in the fire is never in vain. Every challenge, every trial, every tear prepares you for the new thing God is bringing into your life. A new beginning may not look like what you expect. It may not come with fanfare, applause, or recognition, but it will come with purpose, peace, and divine alignment. Maybe tonight your new beginning starts with forgiveness. Forgiving someone who hurt you. Forgiving yourself for the mistakes you've made. Forgiving the past that has held you captive. Forgiveness opens the door to freedom. Maybe your new beginning starts with courage. Stepping out in faith, making a change, pursuing a dream. Saying yes to what God has placed in your heart. Courage is the bridge between despair and destiny. Maybe your new beginning starts with hope. Choosing to believe even when circumstances seem impossible. Trusting that God is already at work behind the scenes. Moving things into alignment. Orchestrating miracles you cannot yet see. A new beginning is not just about external change. It's about internal transformation. It's about letting God shape your heart, renew your mind, and awaken your spirit to the purpose for which you were created. Do not be afraid to embrace it. Do not be timid in stepping into the life God has planned for you. Do not let past disappointments rob you of the future He has prepared. I want you to see yourself as God sees you. A masterpiece in progress. A story still unfolding. A vessel of His glory and power. Your past may have been difficult, but it does not define you. Your failures may have been painful, but they do not determine you. Your struggles may have been long, but they do not limit you, because God is greater. His plans are higher. His love is deeper. His power is unmatched, and His timing is perfect. This is the moment to release the weight of yesterday and step boldly into tomorrow. This is the moment to say, Lord, I am ready. I am willing. I am open to your new beginning. When you do, you will discover that God's new thing is always bigger than your imagination, brighter than your fear, and stronger than your doubts. A new beginning may bring challenges. Every growth requires effort. Every change requires courage. Every breakthrough requires faith. But it also brings joy, peace, purpose, and the deep satisfaction of walking in alignment with God's will. Remember, the same God who made a way for Moses through the Red Sea, who delivered Daniel from the lion's den, who raised Jesus from the dead, that same God is making a way for you. Tonight, I want you to hear this truth and hold it in your heart. Your story is not over. Your chapter is not closed. Your life is not finished. God is still writing, and the best is yet to come. So lift your eyes, stand tall, take that step of faith, speak the words of hope over your life. Declare that your past does not define you. Your pain does not control you, and your future is bright in the hands of God. And when you walk forward in faith, you will find that what was broken is restored. What was lost is returned. What was dead is made alive. This is your new beginning, not just a chance to start over, but a chance to rise higher, love deeper, serve greater, and live fuller than ever before. God has prepared something for you that no one can take away. A new purpose, a new peace, a new joy, a new destiny. And it all begins with one simple act. Faith. Faith that says, I believe God is good. I believe God is able. I believe God has a plan for me. Faith that moves mountains, heals hearts, restores lives, and opens doors that no one else can open. So take that first step. Walk boldly into the new life He has prepared for you. Trust Him in the waiting. Rejoice in the process. And praise Him for the promise, because today, my friends, today is the day of your new beginning. And one day you will look back on your life and say, I have walked through valleys, I have faced storms, I have overcome fear, and now I live in the fullness of God's promises. This is my new beginning, and it is glorious. That, my friends, is the power of God's grace. That is the beauty of faith. That is the miracle of a new beginning.